Hey everybody, welcome back to Forest Fair Business. My name's Alexandra Kilf and today I'm back with a new video. Hello Pierre! He wants to be involved. Today's video is about you guys. Yeah, it's about these two. And it's actually all about how I managed to bond these two. So I mentioned it briefly in my update vlog and I mentioned it on my Instagram, but those two, Squeak and Pierre, are finally fully bonded. For some background information, I have had Pierre for a couple of years now and I adopted Squeak in April this year, 2023, and it has taken some time to fully bond them. It can take time, sometimes ferrets connect and bond instantly. That's pretty much the case with Pierre and Balthazar. Literally overnight, put them in the same cage and they connected instantly. No play fighting, no roughhousing. They just seem to just instantly loved each other. There were no issues, but these two, there were some issues, weren't there? Yeah, there were some issues. But things are all good now, so I wanted to do a video about how I got to that point, because some ferrets, it just takes more time. Obviously it's been April, May, June, July, August, September. It's been about 5 months. And there were a couple of points where I was considering potentially returning Squeak because I was having a lot of anxiety about, am I doing a good job? What if they never, get along? What if this is just not working? And with some advice from the lady that I got Squeak from, the rescue, and just perseverance and some methods that I've got written down, and I just want to go through them with you guys, and hopefully this might help. So you guys, if maybe you're going through a similar situation, and just, Pierre, do you mind? Hang on, I got some treats. Guys, treats! So I'm hoping this might help some of you guys if you ever have this issue of bonding ferrets. Just know that ultimately it just takes time and patience and it's different with the ferrets, so hopefully this might help some of you guys if you are ever struggling. So yeah, let's get into it. I've written this down somewhere. So number one, what I started off with is having 2 separate cages for both of them. I only keep them separate during night when they're sleeping, or during day as well sometimes, so that because just while they're sleeping, and as a result they have their own separate bedding as well. And then what I also do is I swap their bedding every couple of nights so that they'll then get used to each other's scents, and that really worked actually. Initially I wasn't swapping their bedding, but then once I started swapping their bedding every couple of nights, I noticed that once they were having their free roam time, because initially they would Pierre make a beeline for Squeak and then they start roughhousing and it was just not fun. But then once I started swapping their bedding, there was none of this making a beeline for him immediately, grabbing him by the neck. There was that sort of, they start sniffing each other's butts and just a lot nicer, gentler. They would eventually start roughhousing again, but it was a lot gentler to start off with, a lot nicer, just to start off with. So, so keep them in separate cages just to start off with, especially for the first couple of weeks, potentially months. Don't tip it over. Now there's treats everywhere. Great, thanks guys. And yeah, swap the bedding over with each other. Obviously when you wash the bedding, just start anew. Just keep doing that every couple of nights and you'll notice that they might start calming down, and yeah, it just helps them get used to each other's scents again. And yeah, I noticed an immediate behaviour change and it was really helpful. Let them share their treats in salmon oil time. I say salmon oil time, so when I don't keep them separate or give one in salmon oil and then give another salmon oil time. I put them down together at the same time, salmon oil on both bellies at the same time. I don't do it on the back of their necks personally because I find that tends to entice them into rough play, but I do it on their bellies. They don't tend to go they don't tend to clean off each other's bellies at the same time. They just tend to stick to each other. But I find that if they share each other's treats and like seminal time together, then they don't get possessive. They just know that this is like a shared thing. They do it together, but it's not possessive. They have the same food, same treat, same salmon all at the same time, and they all get it from the same jar. It's not separate, and they don't get possessive. And I think that tends to help, because then they don't get possessive about it, and I think that helps. Just, you know, they're all on equal grounds. I think that's good, especially with Squeak, because he had some issues with his brother in his previous home, and I didn't want him to have any anxiety issues with Pierre. I didn't want any unequal power balances, but there's none here, so that's all good. I encourage more toy play together rather than like physical play. This plays into the next point, which is intervening with toys. So obviously ferrets play together, like they play with their mouths, they play with their paws. That's just how they naturally play. But stop tipping the treat jar over. But like, if I notice that things are getting a bit rough, if I notice that the ducking is turning more into like a squeaking, or I just notice things are getting a bit rough, I might intervene by grabbing a toy. I might sort of try and shove it between them, or I might grab one of our dangly toys and try and just intervene, you know, shove it between them, you know, try and like just divert their attention. Or I might encourage them to play just with toys more than with each other while they're still playing with each other, just to like, because Pierre, for example, he can play quite rough, even if he doesn't mean to necessarily play rough. He just is a rough player, and that can sometimes, especially during the first couple months, divulge into rough housing, even when Squeak doesn't want to. So that sort of intervening with toys and encouraging toy play rather than rough play was helpful to, one, prevent any accidents, because there were quite a few accidents during those first couple months. Whereas if I was intervening with toys, it meant that one, Pierre would get distracted and prevent those accidents. Pierre's getting distracted with dangly toys, or he's getting distracted with one of these, and then that Squeak had a moment to sort of go run off and cool off, or go run off and hide, or, you know, just, it gave Squeak moments to go and, you know, run off and chill, and it gave Pierre a moment to get distracted. You are soaked. Did you go in the water bowl? Did you go in the water bowl? Of course you did, you are soaked. I did use timeouts. This is one of the few different discipline methods you could use, but it worked wonders with Pierre. I did use it was mostly Pierre really. Squeak didn't need disciplining because he was usually the victim in the when it came to play fighting, although later on in the month Squeak did join in causing the fights. But with timeouts, it's important to note that I only used the smaller cage. I didn't actually use the main sleeping cage because I didn't want Pierre to associate the main sleeping cage with like bad timeout necessarily. And you do not want to use timeouts for more than 5 minutes max. Normally it's only like 3 minutes because their short-term memory is really bad, and if it's longer than 5 minutes they will forget why they're there, and then it just gets cruel because obviously longer than 5 minutes they'll forget why they're there, and then you're just depriving them of their free roam time, and it's just not nice. So then what I put, once when they're play fighting, if it got rough, and I only really put them in free roam, I only did a timeout once their play fighting got to a point where there was any blood, any poop, any pee, and once it got to that point I would immediately remove Pierre, put him in timeout, 5 minutes, then I'd take him back out. I'd obviously soothe Squeak, and if there was any blood I would, you know, wipe off and just soothe them down, like in Seminole or a treat, you know, just soothe them, calm them down a little bit. But yeah, timeouts are really good. I noticed that once I started using them, there's a lot going on. I'd usually use about, there might have been 2 to 3 every day, but then there's a sudden decrease in the amount of times I was using them, quite suddenly actually. And now I don't use any, pretty much. I think the only times I use them is when he's digging out the carpet, and like I said, that's not to do with bonding, that's just to do with him being an arse, really. And I think the one that worked the most really is at the end of my free roam time. I would put both of them into the main sleeping cage, the big one, and just sort of observe. Like, I put them, they'd be tired, they'd be worn out, I put them both in the cage with their water and food, maybe a bit of salmon oil, maybe, and just observe. If they're still full of energy and they're ruffling and tumbling, I'd obviously separate them back into the separate cages. But I'd observe. If it seems like they're sharing a sleeping space and going to sleep happily, I would leave a room and, you know, I would observe for about 5-10 minutes, maybe just on my phone, you know, just observe. If it seems like they're going to sleep and they're fine, I would leave a room, but just keep an ear out, maybe because in the first couple months, obviously a couple hours later or during the night, I would hear the squeaking of, like, you know, rough housing, so I'd have to come back and separate them. But then, like, as the months went on, I would no longer hear that, and that meant that throughout the night they were sleeping soundly, so that was good. But it wasn't until, obviously, like last month that they were going throughout the entire night sleeping completely with no squeaking and roughhousing at all, which is really good. That's what I wanted. And now, like I said, now there's absolutely no issues at all. They are going through the entire night, no issues, no waking up and, you know, trying to claw each other's faces, which is good, isn't it, babies? Which is what we want. So yeah, so like I said, that's just at the end of free roam time, or however, that's just how I do. Obviously everyone handles their ferrets differently. Just put them in the same cage and just observe how they're doing, and if you think it's safe to leave them. Obviously my bedroom is like literally right next door to them, so I can hear if they are squeaking. You can always do a baby monitor if you want to be extra safe, if you don't think you'll hear them squeaking and squealing or whatever. But I can hear them because I have thin walls and my bedroom's literally just through there. But a baby monitor would always work. But yeah, those were my ways of doing it. It's definitely patience. Yeah, really. Ultimately, patience was just what I needed. Patience and support, because there were definitely times where I was like, is this going to work? But is it working? But it very randomly felt like it happened almost overnight. Like, but it really, it just, you do need to be patient, because ferrets, like humans, have their own personality. Sometimes some ferrets it happens overnight, sometimes it doesn't. Balthazar, Pierre bonded instantly. These two took 5 months, and so sometimes it can take longer. You just need to be patient and just keep trying. And some methods will work, some don't. These methods work for mine, they might not work for yours. Just keep trying, try others. You know, like I said, so separate cages for sleeping, swapping bedding, sharing treats and salmon oil, encouraging play with toys and intervening with toys, timeouts, and, you know, and at the end of free roam time, putting them in the same cage together and observing. Observing is really important, just to make sure that they're not instantly going at each other's throats, because obviously if ferrets do fight, it can end badly. But yeah, that is all of my personal tips. Yeah, really? Yeah? Yeah, are you going to keep being a bitch? Right, I think that's all I have to say for this on this matter. Thank you for watching. Sorry again for my absence. I did do an update vlog yesterday if you are wanting to catch up on everything. Thank you for watching, and I will be with you guys in the next video. Bye!